It finally happening, guys. Republicans are beginning to turn on Trump. To tell you truth, I saw this coming because there is no way someone does all he has done and gets away with it. Georgia, Minneapolis, different headlines, same obsession. Control. Rigged election tantrums. Law enforcement as a personal weapon. And the rest of us expected to just swallow it. Democracy doesn't die quietly, it gets bullied. If you love explosive content like this and want to see more, click that subscribe button.
We are going to start this week in Georgia, not in Minneapolis. We will, of course, get to the slaying of Alex Pretty on the streets of that city last Saturday in a moment. But it is possible that when historians look back on the last 7 days, they will conclude that events on Wednesday in Atlanta sounded a louder klaxon over the future of American democracy than even the indefensible gunning down of a second American citizen opposing the president's mass deportation policies.
We continue at this hour to follow breaking news. It is coming out of Atlanta. FBI agents are executing a search warrant at the Fulton County, Georgia election offices in Atlanta. Another indication that the White House continues to maintain the 2020 election was stolen.
Many people may remember Fulton County as being the site where former President Donald Trump, along with at least more than a dozen other people, faced criminal charges, accusations that they tried to interfere with the results of the 2020 election.
Just 1 week ago, Trump declaring prosecutions are next.
People will soon be prosecuted for what they did. It's probably breaking news, but it should be. It was a rigged election. Can't have rigged elections.
The coverage there of Scripps News and ABC, that line buried in the president's speech last week at the World Economic Forum in Davos, should have attracted more notice. A clear indication that a fresh breach of the independence of the Department of Justice was in the works. It is now his Office of Personal Retribution. His Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was on hand personally for Wednesday's raid in Georgia, underscoring its importance to the president who, in an infamous phone call on January the 2nd, 2021, begged Republican election officials to help him overturn Joe Biden's election win in the state.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
That overture was rejected by brave Republicans in Georgia who could see attempted election fraud a mile away. But Trump has never forgiven them, nor abandoned the complete fiction that he was the winner of the keys to the White House in 2020 and not Joe Biden. So now he stands accused of deploying the FBI, his personal investigative force, to concoct a case in order to prove it.
Right. So while everyone's busy doom-scrolling Minneapolis, Atlanta's the bit that should make your stomach drop because this isn't politics. It's apparatus. It's the state being leaned on. An FBI search warrant at Fulton County election offices, reportedly boxes of ballots, computers, phones, and the voter register being carted off, and we're meant to treat that as normal. Normal, sure. And then you've got the president basically winking at it. Interesting things are coming, as if law enforcement is his personal content team. And I'm sorry, I keep flashing back to that infamous find votes call, because that's the tell, isn't it? Not verify, not audit, not transparency. Find. That's not election integrity. That's coercion dressed up in a suit. And when local officials are saying they expect to be arrested, that's not law and order. That's intimidation. Full stop.
We will not give 1 inch to those who seek to take control of elections in Fulton County. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever.
Rob Pitts is the top election official in Fulton County and says he thinks before all of this is over, he will be arrested.
This week's activities show that Fulton County is still much a target, and I'm told that I am personally a target. I'm a big boy.
The president last night was asked to explain what is going on. Why was his Director of National Intelligence personally leading the FBI raid? Because that is definitely not normal.
She's working very hard on trying to keep the election safe, and she's done a very good job. And they, as you know, they got into the votes. You got a signed judge's order in Georgia, and you're going to see some interesting things happening. They've been trying to get there for a long time.
When he says the FBI got into the votes, He means that investigators carted away 700 boxes of them from an official election storage facility, along with computers, phones, and critically, the state's electoral register, its list of voters and their addresses. That will give Trump not only the capacity to challenge again the outcome of the 2020 election, even though the votes were counted in Georgia on 3 separate occasions, it will also provide him with potential ammunition to challenge the outcome of votes that will be cast in Georgia later this year.
This is a seismic event. This should have people across the country absolutely shook. This is a huge deal.
Senator John Ossoff, a Democrat from Georgia, sounding the alarm on left-leaning MS Now. The host of the program is one of Joe Biden's former White House press secretaries.
This is a shot across the bow at the midterm elections. He tried to steal power when he lost it in 2020. We have to be prepared for all kinds of schemes and shenanigans. We have to be prepared for him to try to deprive people of their voting rights in Georgia.
And not only in Georgia, but in lots of other places, including Minnesota as well. The state that this week was ground zero for yet more American shame. It took agents with the Border Patrol just 6.5 seconds to kill Alex Pretty. Ten shots fired at close range as the 37-year-old intensive care unit nurse and critic of the president's mass deportation policies became the second American citizen gunned down in Minneapolis this month by the president's masked thugs. As you surely know by now, Mr. Pretty was a legally licensed gun owner, disarmed of his weapon before he was killed. Last Saturday, he was legally observing and filming Border Patrol operations, not in any way confronting them or getting in their way. Although footage captured 11 days earlier does show him confronting federal agents elsewhere in the city, spitting at them and vandalizing their car. But his killing last Saturday and the lies told about it by top Trump officials sparked a crisis within the president's administration.
And speaking of intimidation, it doesn't just live in court filings and press conferences, does it? It spills out onto the pavement. Because while they're raiding election offices in Georgia, you've got Minneapolis showing what this law and order cosplay looks like in real life. Masked federal agents, hair trigger escalation, and then 10 shots in 6 seconds. And I'm sorry, domestic terrorist. Assassin? Really? That's the line. Because reportedly the videos show Alex Pretty wasn't charging agents. He wasn't aiming at anyone. He'd been disarmed. And he was filming. Filming, the thing Americans do when they don't trust power, because power keeps lying. And here's the pattern. You brand dissent as violence. You pretend oversight is anti-cop. And you justify force as training. Meanwhile, the officials at the top rush out a narrative before the facts even get their shoes on, and then act offended when the public notices.
This individual showed up to impede a law enforcement operation and assaulted our officers. They responded according to their training and took action to defend the officer's life and those of the public around him. And I don't know of any peaceful protester that shows up with a gun and ammunition rather than a sign. This is a violent riot when you have someone showing up with weapons and are using them to assault law enforcement officers.
Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem falsely branded Alex Pretty a domestic terrorist. Deputy White House Chief of Staff Stephen Miller went so far as to call him an assassin. But the American public could see clearly, via multiple videos of the killing, filmed by onlookers, that Mr. Pretty had posed no threat to the killer Border Patrol agents, nor to members of the public. In fact, he was trying to help a woman who had been violently thrown to the ground by the agents before both of them were pummeled and pepper sprayed. From the swaggering commander of Border Patrol Operations, Greg Bovino, these remarks that made his continuing presence in Minneapolis untenable, even for this White House.
Calling law enforcement names like Gestapo or using the term kidnapping, that is a choice that is made. There are actions and consequences that come from those choices. And then when someone chooses to listen to a politician, a so-called journalist, a community leader, that spouted that type of vilification towards law enforcement or anything else, when you choose to listen to that, that is a choice, and there are consequences and actions there also.
The sound of the American Constitution being shredded. By the way, for a man who doesn't like being compared to the Gestapo, it is decidedly odd that in recent weeks he strutted around Minneapolis wearing SS-style trench coats and being photographed appearing to give a Nazi salute. But by midweek, he had to go, so he was pulled out of the city and demoted, though that wasn't enough to satisfy a growing number of Republicans, including Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina, demanding that Kristi Noem should lose her job as well.
What she's done in Minnesota should be disqualifying. She should be out of the job. And I mean, really, it's just amateurish. It's terrible. It's making the president look bad.
For some influential Trump backers, Mr. Pretty's killing and the failure of the White House to order an independent investigation into it was the last straw. Andrew Schultz is a podcaster who backed Trump in 2024, but has now seen enough.
It's like they didn't even have a moment where they're like, hey, we're reviewing the footage. We're going to try to see what's really happening. All of them, Trump and all the cronies, put out collective statements that immediately blamed an American citizen that was exercising his First and Second Amendment rights, right? He has the right to protest. He has the right to carry a firearm. He's a legal gun owner, right? There's no question about this whatsoever. And the administration immediately comes out and they try to gaslight the public, which you cannot do when we have 15 different videos of what happened.
Right. So after all that, you'd think the so-called law and order crowd would have one message. Let's get the facts. Let's do an independent investigation. Let's calm it down. But no. Because the reflex is always spin first, reality later. And speaking of spin, watch how the right-wing media types bend themselves into origami to excuse state violence. I stayed inside, so I wasn't shot. Sorry, since when was don't leave the house the price of freedom? That's not safety, that's submission. Now to be fair, some on Trump's own side are finally blinking. When you've got senators openly saying the Homeland Security chief should be out of a job, that's not a minor disagreement. That's panic, optics, self-preservation. But don't mistake it for courage. They're not rejecting the authoritarian playbook. They're complaining it's being executed too loudly. So here's my question. Where were you when the warning signs were the whole bloody platform? Tell me in the comments who's actually breaking ranks and who's just laundering the same mess with cleaner language.
Yes.
But even while the pro-gun National Rifle Association was taking issue with the White House version of events, the president could still count on the backing of former Fox News host Megyn Kelly, who has moved herself even further to the right in her current gig at XM Sirius Radio.
I know I'm supposed to feel sorry for Alex Pretty, but I don't. I don't. Do you know why I wasn't shot by Border Patrol this weekend? Because I kept my ass inside and out of their operations.
What can I tell you? There's always one. The week ends with Trump having told one broadcaster that he is de-escalating in Minneapolis, but then insisting the next day that he is not. The new face of his still thuggish operation there is White House immigration czar Tom Homan. But rather than listen to him yesterday pretend to be the voice of soothing reason, let's revisit what he had to say last March.
I wake up every morning loving my job because I work for the greatest president in the history of my life, and we're going to make this country safe again. I'm proud to be a part of this administration. We're not stopping. I don't care what the judges think. I don't care what the left thinks. We're coming.
Little wonder that this week the chief judge in Minnesota said that ICE agents have likely violated more court orders this month alone than some federal agencies have violated in their entire existence. And in case you missed it, one of the things that the White House is demanding in exchange for a withdrawal of some ICE and Border Patrol agents from Minneapolis is the electoral register for the entire state of Minnesota. Put another way, the president is saying, give me your list of voters, I'll stop gunning some of them down. It's quite a pitch, that, and it shows that we've all got to keep our eyes on November's midterms, because the president